Hello once again. In this tutorial we will see how to make sprites from 3D models with animations from inside Unity. A couple of weeks back there was another video from Games from Scratch YouTube channel. You will find a link in the description below. Now, in that video the workflow was a little bit different. They used Blender instead of Unity, and it's pretty similar actually. You create your character, you give him the animation you want to do, you want to make sprites of, put it in Blender, render it, cut out the background. Now, let's see how we can do the same thing from inside Unity though. As you can see, I have my character. He has an animator controller with the animation I want to put inside. Okay. I've set up the camera to look at him from the angle I want to take start taking the sprites. Now let's go and write a script. Let's call this script, oops, let's make another one. Let's call this script sprite maker. Delete this. Let's open it up. Okay, now the first thing we will need is system.io, and the next thing we will need is Unity editor. Namespaces we will use. Okay, we will start adding our variables. We will need a bool so that we know we start taking images. We need an integer so our sprites won't override each other. We need an integer that we're gonna set on how many frames we want to start taking pictures. We will call it frame to capture. We need another one which it's gonna count how many frames have passed, and we need a timer so that we know for how many seconds we want to take pictures. Okay, and we need a string that it will help us save our sprites, our images soon to be sprites actually, so that we're pretty much more organized. Now we won't need, let me zoom that. So let's start again. We add system.io namespace and Unity editor. Okay, this boolean will help us when we want to start taking the images, how many we have taken. So this will add we will add this to our path so our sprites don't override each other. On how many frames will pass until the next capture. This will help us count the frames that have passed, the maximum seconds we want to take sprites, and an internal variable to help us count how much time has passed. We will add an I numerator. We will call it capture screenshots. The first thing we want to do is wait for all the graphics to load, and that happens at the end of the frame. We will need a texture DD. We will just call it texture. Its dimensions will be our screen.width and screen.height, and the texture format, we will make it ARGB32. Now it's important the texture format we will use will have an alpha channel so that we don't have to manually take care of the background, and we don't want bitmaps. Now we will read pixels. Of course, if you have Unity Pro, you can use render textures, which renders the textures in the GPU and not the CPU, and it's much more faster. But since we are not taking pictures every frame, although we can set it to take pictures every frame, we don't have a problem. And since this is not going to be on a build, it's for our use only, so we can do a lot more stuff. After this, we will break up the procedure and we will store our bytes inside an array which we will call bytes. And after that, we will write on to the disk. Write of bytes. We will add our path plus our count integer plus .png. Okay, the path we will see later how we set it up. The count is so our sprites don't overwrite each other. This is the ending so Windows can recognize it, and the bytes we have encoded. We will increment our count, and it's recommended that we destroy the texture. It says so in the wiki, so it's best to do that because Unity doesn't get rid of the textures, so it might crash after a lot of screenshots. And that's about it. So let's go to our update, and we will say if we start taking images, we will check on our path. And we will say if our path equals the first value we have given it, we will say our path equals editor utility dot save file panel save screenshots folder application dot data path. We don't want a default name and we don't want a default extension. Okay, the path we will use, we will let the user decide the path he wants to save the images. This is what he will see on top of the window. It will start him inside the assets folder of our project, and we won't give him a default name and default extension. Okay, now we will add a debug log just to be sure here, and we will say that if a path equals our initial value, which is nothing, we will stop, we won't take the pictures. So if the player hits cancel, it doesn't take the pictures. If the user, we will start adding to our timer. And now we will start counting the frames. And we will say if a count frames is higher than the frames to capture, we will start our coroutine, which is called capture screenshots. We will reset our frames and we will add a debug log so that we know that we are taking pictures. And finally, if our timer is higher than maximum timer, that means we have taken, for the desired seconds, we have taken the frames we want, and we will say we don't want to take any more images. Okay, pretty easy stuff. If we start taking images, set up our path, start counting seconds, start counting frames, and every frame that passes the value we put here, we will take a screenshot on a format that has an alpha value. Let's give it from here a 10. So let's go back to Unity now. Let's go back to our main camera, drop our sprite here, delete this. So we will take captures, we will take for 5 seconds, we will be taking screenshots on every frame, on every 10 frames. So that means if for 5 seconds, for 1 second, if we have 60 FPS, it means we will take 6 pictures. Now let's hit play, let's hit start taking pictures. You see the saving file panel. It's best not to save them directly inside Unity, because Unity will auto-import them, and if we have a lot of images we might get stuck a little. So I'll just save it on another folder. I'll give it a name of sprite, hit save, and as you can see we have taken 24 sprites. And if we go to our folder and open it up, you can see our sprite. Let's stop this, let's add one just to make sure. Okay, change our texture type, make it sprite 2D. You can cut it, break into the size you want. Okay, hit apply, and now we have turned it into a sprite. And if we add a sprite here, you can see that now we have a sprite. Okay, so now if we want to take a higher resolution, we can simply change from here, the resolution. We want to take, let's say, not this, whatever we want. Was that? Yeah. And if we hit play, now one thing you need to be sure that it's actually, even if I put 1024 p 768, it's actually using 449.337. Okay, if we want to use a correct resolution, you have to open it, make it maximize on play, hit the boolean so that it starts from the beginning to taking pictures. Let's not maximize it. Let's save this to a new folder. We'll call it sprites 2. Now you see, because the calculations are happening in CPU, it looks like it's stuttering. Let's stop. Let's open our folder. And if you see here, we have higher resolutions. And of course, the camera has rendered all the previous sprite we have taken. So this actually renders whatever the camera sees. Even if you don't want to use sprites in your game, you can make UI elements with this. Take pictures for UI elements. Let's say you have a gun and you want to make an icon for your UI. You can drop it here, use this script to take a picture with the alpha, with the background of the alpha, and create a sprite, an icon for your weapon. So that's about it from this tutorial. So if you have any suggestions, comments, or whatever, you can use the subreddit I've created. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.